Hi guys, and welcome to another reading session. Now, I'm this week's mystery reader. My name is Mr. Barson, okay, and I'm going to be reading The Lighthouse Keeper's Breakfast, which is part of a series that starts with The Lighthouse Keeper's Lunch, and that's one of my favourite books when I was a kid. So I'm very lucky to read this. Now, let's get started. Okay. Mr. and Mrs. Grinling lived with their cat, Hamish, in a little white cottage perched high on the cliffs. Mr. Grinling was a lighthouse keeper. By day and night, with his assistant Sam, he lovingly tended the light. One Wednesday morning, when Sam was polishing, he noticed a tiny inscription right at the top of the lighthouse. "Well, well," he said to himself, "just fancy that." Let's have a little look at the picture of the lighthouse. You can see it's very tall, has to be super tall so that the light can be seen by all the ships and that they don't crash into the rocks. "Our lighthouse is 200 years old this year," he told everyone. "We should celebrate," said Mrs. Grinling. "Maybe some presents," said Mr. Grinling. "A fresh coat of red and white paint." "And a party," said Mrs. Grinling. "How about a fancy dress?" suggested Sally de la Croissant the baker. "Something to do with the sea," said Jason the postman. "I've got a lovely octopus suit." "We can use my old sailing ship," roared Miss Admiral Fleetabix. "I'll moor her out in the bay." "Can it be an all-night party with a birthday breakfast?" asked the children. "It's an extremely important occasion." And everyone agreed that Mr. and Mrs. Grinling should be the very special guests. There you go, they're all celebrating their, or planning it anyway, planning the celebration on the beach. Oh, here we go. It was so difficult to choose the best fancy dress. "Shall I wear the shark suit?" said Mr. Grinling. "Could I be a mermaid?" wondered Mrs. Grinling. There they are trying on their suits. But when they discovered the pirate costumes, their minds were quite made up. I totally agree, Grinlings. All my life I've yearned to be a pirate," sighed Mrs. Grinling. "To spit and swear and roam the seven seas." "And search for treasure on a treasure island," added Mr. Grinling. "We'll be splendid pirates," cried Mrs. Grinling as she swashed and buckled around the room. Where did I get to? They swashed and buckled around the room. "Hattie and Herbert, the scourge of the seven seas." "Ooar," said Mr. Grinling, and he swashed and buckled too. "Perhaps Hamish could be our pirate cat," suggested Mrs. Grinling. But Hamish had very different ideas. Can you see what he's done? He's tried to escape out of the window. He's very scared by their swashing and buckling. Whenever Mrs. Grinling wanted him to try his pirate costume, Hamish disappeared. "Drat that cat!" she exclaimed. "Where does he go these days?" The Grinlings practice being pirates at every opportunity. Here they are. "Here's your toast, me old one-eyed beauty." "Ooar! Avast, me hearties, let's stir the crow nest soup." But Mr. Grinling's cutlass caused all sorts of difficulties. "Shiver me timbers! Careful, captain!" "Yoggle the yardarm!" Oh, he's knocking over the fish. That's terrible. "I do not want to be a pirate," he said sadly. "I'm just not very good at it. Perhaps I should have gone in as a shark after all." Mrs. Grinling quite frightened Sam and the seagulls with her cursing and swearing. Oh, swearing. Here we go, look. I'm not going to repeat that. That's terrible. "Gracious me! Hattie Grinling, I don't believe I'm hearing such things. I'm off to the village." "Ha-ha! Thank goodness only a week to go till the sea party." They're quite fed up with the Grinlings. "The Grinlings are driving me mad with their pirate antics." "Oh, so they're dressing up as pirates, are they?" On the night of the party, the Grinlings rowed out towards the party ship. I'll just read a bit like this, okay. At first, its lights shone clearly across the water, but gradually they dimmed and soon they vanished altogether. "What can have happened, Mrs. G?" said Mr. Grinling. "We can't be lost." The waves slapped against the little boat. It was darker than Mr. Grinling had ever seen it. And then, as the lighthouse flashed across the bay, I wonder what's going to happen. "Look, Mr. G!" exclaimed Mrs. Grinling. "Someone's to rescue us." A speedboat swished in beside them and nearly swamping the little dinghy. 3 pirates leapt across the bow and thrust their shining cutlasses in the air. "Oar!" they roared, and they rampaged around the dinghy. Mrs. Grinling was delighted. "Real pirates!" she whispered to "Real pirates!" she whispered to Mr. Grinling, and she forgot all about the sea party. "Oar!" growled the fiercest pirate. "We be pirates, and this be our pirate patch. We're on the lookout for likely new recruits." "Oh, yes," exclaimed Mrs. Grinling. "We'd love to be pirates. Yo-ho-ho and a bottle of rum." Mr. Grinling waved his cutlass rather feebly. The pirates appeared rather surprised. Pirate voice. "Course you have to show us that you can be pirates." And the smallest, snarled the smallest and smelliest pirate. "You have to pass the incredibly difficult pirate tests." Mr. Grinling wasn't sure about pirate tests. Okay, lads," shouted the fiercest pirate. "We'll blindfold 'em and gag 'em and take 'em back to the captain. Soon she'll find out if they're made out of proper pirate material. You all know what she's like." Ooh, they're going to go and meet the pirate captain. The pirate captain was a particularly nasty-looking piece of work. She had black teeth and smelt of rotten fish and seaweed. A grubby white parrot clung to her shoulder. "Right, me hearties, what have we here?" She peg-legged around the Grinlings. "So you want to join our pirate crew?" Look, it says spitting and swearing aloud. Oh yes, please," said Mrs. Grinling. "Definitely," agreed Mr. Grinling. "Well, you look like pirates and you smell like pirates, but you have to pass the 6 pirate tests before you can be pirates. Are you ready?" asked the captain. "So what comes first, me hearties?"